Nvidia is set to report earnings Wednesday after the stock market closes, and this is why it's so important to pay attention. So for those that are unaware, Nvidia is one of the few companies that trades at a $1 trillion market cap. Not billion, not million, but trillion. You guys can see here that it's at $1.16 trillion. Now, why is this significant? Well, Nvidia is set to report earnings this Wednesday after the stock market closes. And based off of its previous time that it reported earnings, it gapped up, if I remember correctly, over 20% in one given day. And when most people thought that it was going to pull on back, me included, right? I did think that it was going to pull on back because it's an insane move for a very valuable company. But no, the AI hype is very, very real. You have to remember back to those quarterly earning reports. One of the main reasons that it gapped up so quickly is that demand was surging for Nvidia. And it's because of all these AI chips and these semiconductor chips that AI devices needed, right? So according to Nvidia's expectation, they had very high expectation for up and coming quarters. So this is why it's so important, because they set and they forecasted very high expectations. And as you can see today, Nvidia stock itself, I mean, it's hard to explain because 8% might not seem like a lot because we had this whole AMC movement. If you're invested in crypto or you see huge moves all the time that other people talk about. This is not a penny stock. Nvidia is one of the most valuable companies that's publicly traded. Today alone, by it moving 8.47% and then 0.28%, altogether, based off of its market cap, it gained nearly $100 billion. I mean, what it gained today in growth is probably more than all of those penny stocks combined in market cap valuation. That is a huge and very significant move. But why is this happening? Well, as of right now, it looks like the market is factoring in, which it tends to do in advance before the actual report is released on Wednesday, what it expects for Nvidia to actually report. And I found these articles to be very interesting. And again, we can talk about this later. If you have very specific questions, feel free to ask me down in the comment section, and I would love to make a video on it. But on August 23, which is this Wednesday, they have an expectation of earnings per share of $2.07. And look at that jump from previous expectations. So you might be asking, well, how significant is this expectation? Look at this. The expectation for every previous earnings per share has been less than $1. Now, this is double that, right? So $2.07 is the forecast for the earnings per share. And again, the revenue is now more than double. Instead of it being $6.52 billion, it is expected to be $11.13 billion. So again, it is great that they set previous expectations to be so high. This is why Nvidia gapped up so much when it reported earnings based off of its previous quarter. I don't know if you guys remember, but it's when it gapped up from lows of 300 to all the way highs of almost $400 a share. It was a very significant day for Nvidia. And ever since then, Nvidia has been on a winning streak. Let's not sugarcoat it. From its overall lows that it had in the start of 2023. This is all this year, right? I guess not. It was from lows of September. So let's go to the beginning of this year. Just to be exact, it's going to be right around this price point of 139. I like doing this. I don't know if you guys ever do. I like to look at overall growth of what it experienced in this year. Again, if the world was this perfect, that's a 240% gain. If I'm not mistaken, in comparison to any company that trades in the $1 trillion market cap, Nvidia is the one that has experienced the most growth in 2023. I mean, 240% to be invested in one of the most valuable companies. You have to think, people made a ton of money off of Nvidia. But this is the unfortunate part if it doesn't meet expectation. Obviously, Nvidia seems to be unstoppable. AI demand and AI hype is still very present. So I'm not here to say that it won't. I'm just here to say, well, what if it doesn't, right? Our job is not to try to predict the future, but to prepare. And preparing means to be aware of both sides. And I hope you see it as that. So again, one of the things that everyone continues to talk about is not only the influence that Nvidia is having to the overall market, as the market had an amazing green day, not solely based off of Nvidia, but because of its $1 trillion market cap. I'm sure it didn't hurt it, right? When it comes down to Yahoo Finance talking about, again, come Wednesday, Wall Street will turn to Nvidia. which is looking for an encore after its blowout guidance of last quarter, right? So they are looking for an encore, meaning that they want to see if this demand continues, exceeding expectation. So driven by excitement around artificial intelligence technology, Nvidia stock is up more than 200% this year so far, and including today's 9% surge. It's around 8% to be exact. But this is the one that I found to talk a little bit more about the potential downside. I think it's just good to be aware of both sides. Obviously, it would be great if it continues to rally for AI, but what if it doesn't? How bad can it be? Because of its market cap at $1 trillion, right? 1.1 trillion, just like we saw right now, it can influence the market in a very negative way, especially if it doesn't meet expectation for not only its quarterly earning reports, but it's also future guidance, right? So there's no denying that Nvidia has done well for itself in spite of its global macroeconomic slowdown in recent quarters. But I contend that its streak of outperformance is likely to fizzle out soon. So again, it just talks a little bit more about how and why maybe demand might not continue to be there, especially with the very high expectations that people currently have as investors for Nvidia stock itself. I just think it's a very interesting to take into consideration. It's, in my opinion, other than the Fed meeting that we have this Friday, it's probably the only other thing that I'm going to be paying attention to this week. Nvidia, based off of its market cap being at $1 trillion and reporting earnings this Wednesday after the stock market closes. I do plan to live stream it. And of course, it is going to be for free here on the YouTube channel. So it's just another reason to subscribe if you guys haven't done so already. There is no question that, of course, with great opportunity comes great responsibility. I have a feeling it's going to be a very interesting one. So either we're going to exceed expectation of what is currently set of $2 per share or $11 billion in revenue. But even its last quarter, right? 6.52 billion was the expectation. It came in at 7. Now they're saying that we expect it to be nearly double of what our previous expectation is for the quarter. Obviously, again, this is the place that Nvidia put itself in. And if it exceeds expectation, then it's earned. It doesn't deserve anything, but it's earned a nice little rally, right? But now, if it doesn't meet that expectation, it's going to be very interesting to see if Nvidia actually begins to pull on back and how it will affect the overall market. The reason that this is so significant is if Nvidia stock does begin to sell off, look at this. On the 4-hour time frame, the NASDAQ market has been on a consistent descending pattern, getting rejected by this EMA line. So it's going to be interesting to see if Nvidia can continue to move the bulls forward and then bring the market back to previous highs of 187. If it has a really bad earnings, of course, Nvidia stock itself can sell off, but because of its market cap, it can drag the rest of the market down with it, taking it to new lows. Not saying that that's what's going to happen, just saying that, of course, anytime big expectations are being factored in, if they're not followed through with, then again, the market will react. And unfortunately, right, especially when they're factored in advance, can react and overreact in a very negative way. So going to be very interesting to see how Nvidia stock actually ends up performing. And yes, I will be live streaming it, so make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Let me know in the comment section if this is something that you guys like to talk about. Obviously, I like making these videos in advance, sharing some thoughts, sharing different opinions, not to try to convince anyone that you should go one way or another, but I think it's good to be open-minded to both sides, both the good of how Nvidia stock can perform, but also the risk involved if it doesn't meet expectation. So I hope that it earned a thumbs up. Please consider subscribing. And also, friendly reminder, I do trade live every single morning. You don't have to join, but if you want to watch me trade live as soon as tomorrow, feel free to check it out. It's the second link in the description down below. And I'll see you tomorrow at Market Open for our live trading session. Like always, let's make sure that we end the year on a green note. Take it easy, team.